Today I needed a saw buck or a saw horse, whatever one you call it in your area. And we're going to make that very rustically, the same as frontiersmen did, with an axe and an auger bit. We can also bring out a smaller axe if we need to do some finer carving, but I think that the felling axe is going to work overall for this project. It's very, very simple. We have a down tree that fell during a recent storm, so we're going to take advantage of that. What we need is a large Y branch off of this. You know, the famous Y branch that we use so much in bushcraft, and then we're gonna need another straight branch. But before we cut this any further, I limbed it up so I can get in here to work. We're gonna take our auger bit and we're going to auger a hole into the branch. Now, the Y itself is right here. So the legs of this project are going to be where the Y comes out. So the top of the tree is facing this direction. So this is gonna be the longer part because these are the legs and this is actually part of the saw buck itself. So what we're going to do is we're gonna drill through this section of this upright. So we're gonna have one upright and then of course the legs coming down. We need to auger a bit here. I would go a little bit lower, but we had a branch right here, so I don't wanna work with that knot. I'm gonna come just a little bit above the knot and auger a hole about 3 inches in diameter. Now I only have a 1 inch auger with me right now, so I'm gonna make a variety of holes and then use my chisel to widen that up. Hey Dan, you know when they say it's boring?
Yeah.
Yeah, boring, that's where it comes from. Because guys that used to have to bore holes for a living?
Yeah, boring job.
Boring, yep. Do you know that?
No.
That's true. Okay, so just to show everybody what these holes are like here, I'm going to I started this third hole right here, okay? So you can see we drilled 3 holes here. So this one I just started, I wanted to show you just a demonstration of where we're at. So 2 holes side by side, a third one, so it looks like a 3-leaf clover. I can take either my chisel or my gouge, and then I'm gonna clean this out. Now this doesn't have to be a perfectly round hole. The closer to round it is, the better. But we just need to get the shape, and this is how they would traditionally make larger holes if they didn't have a larger auger. They would just have to drill multiple holes and widen it up with their other framing tools. So you can see here how the 3 holes are drilled. It's still rough inside, but that's where we're going to take our gouge and clean that out. Gonna start to clean out that inside. So this is just a slow process. It's something you gotta just take your time doing and cleaning out. This is where making these mauls come in handy with stuff like this green woodworking. This works absolutely great. So I'm just gonna keep taking all this inside out and make this a nice round hole. Now that I'm sweaty and super overheated, my hole is just about done. But one thing that I want everybody to notice is that as I was doing this, the tree was still all intact, meaning that I didn't cut these branches free of the tree yet, because it was way easier for me to work with this up off the ground than have it laying directly on the ground. So that's something you want to think about when you're working with heavier lumber like this. How are you going to make your life easier? And my life was made way easier by keeping this tree intact. And then once my hole was augered and partially cleaned out with my gouge, then I can go and I can trim it to my size, flip it over and just work that back side of the hole just a little bit. So that's what we're going to do now. So right now you can see that one side of my sawbuck is complete, hole taken care of, 2 legs and the upright. Now, yeah, very robust, but we're dealing with large lumber, and you would make something like this if you're dealing with large lumber itself. Back side of the hole doesn't look too pretty yet, so I'm gonna take my gouge and clean that up right now. Next step in this process is to get a straight pole, and the straight pole is going to go through that hole that we augered and then ultimately used our gouge to make large. Now the branch that is going to go through that hole needs to be larger than the hole, and then we're going to actually take our axe and carve it down. We're going to taper it much like a pencil point, but think of it very elongated pencil point, and that way it'll slide up in there, and as it goes up it gets lower on the branch and tightens up. So let's cut a straight branch and see what that looks like.
Say this is aspen. There you go.
And that's the process of making a sawbuck in the field with a downed tree. So you can see how big and robust this is. This is really well for my height, because if I laid something across this, I can work up in my work area. I don't have to bend over. And ultimately, that's why we're making this, just to make our lives a little bit easier. So I'm gonna say that along with filming, this entire project probably took about a half an hour. But if you think how much time and energy this is gonna save over 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, a year in the field, if you're processing a lot of wood, it's well worth the time spent. And you can see it's real rough. There's nothing fancy about this. You auger a hole, you put in your stick, and everything's there. If I'd make one more of these, now I really have something going. So it's something to try. This is more advanced wilderness living skills compared to the basic survival or basic bushcraft stuff that we do. But I think it's definitely something worthwhile, especially if you have a long-term camp or just a sustainable camp that you travel to all the time. You can make these up and you're good to go. So this was Dan Wolak and Dan Valinski with Coalcracker Bushcraft. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, check us out at coalcrackerbushcraft.com. Till the next video, stay in the woods.